Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Rutherford County School Work Session. First order of business, the pledge, led by our director.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, group. Number 4, approval of agenda. Need any comments from anybody? Wants anything moved around? Number 5, approval of consent agenda. Comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see item D on the consent agenda moved out to the regular agenda for discussion.
Okay, Ms. Michaels will take care of that.
D, yes, ma'am.
Anything else from anybody?
The bus?
Yeah, and I'll share. My concern here is that with the change in driver's ed, with Nissan no longer supporting that, we've got some schools that Mr. Sandvig informed us have actually spent to a deficit in this driver's education allowance. Other schools have a surplus, and just how we're doing this so we maintain equity between our schools and what the plan is going forward, where we're going to need to use some of these funds perhaps for replacing driver's ed cars, maintaining driver's ed cars, but we're no longer going to have that Nissan support. And I just want to intentionally do this. I don't want to get in the way of buying this bus. I just want to make sure that whatever we're doing it, evenly between all the schools and accounting for schools that maybe last year bought a bus and actually went into a deficit in this particular account, and how we're doing this going forward.
No. You want to talk about it?
You want to make your case tomorrow night and have a vote on that one individual item tomorrow night as part of the agenda?
Yeah, and I feel like that, with a heads up tonight in our work session, that staff will bring, a comprehensive recommendation that says, hey, don't worry about this, we got this under control and all that kind of stuff, and I'd be satisfied. It's just, I think it's worth the board's attention as we transition from what we have been doing with driver's ed funds to what we will be doing, in the coming 18 months or so as we transition without Nissan support.
I just didn't wait till tomorrow night for discussion on it. If the board wishes to go on tonight and have the discussion tonight, but not tomorrow night, that's fine with me too.
I mentioned this about probably 6 weeks or 2 months ago when we first heard about it. And at that time, we said we'd probably be adding about $200,000 to our regular budget. Of course, one of the big changes is, but we still do not have all the details about Nissan is talking about. Of course, we got the cars that were already in use, but they talked about working out something with us with some of theirs that are returned otherwise. Those details are not complete, but I think the short-term answer is we're going to, yes, driver ed funds are going to have to go more probably towards cars and to repair the vehicles because they repaired all of them before. And to match that up, we're going to have to budget some general purpose school funds to deal with the buses and all. That's just quick. I mean, if you don't want to.
Okay, Ms. Michaels will put that on the agenda.
Well, wait a minute, is that a good enough answer, Mr. Holliday, or do you want to go further with it?
Mr. Sammy can tell you kind of how we fund now if you want to do. I mean, it's not something we have to look up.
Well, let's go ahead then. If we're going to keep talking, let's finish it. Is there any other comments on moving that and what that issue is?
Well, when it was discussed, you're exactly right. 6 weeks, 2 months ago, something like that, it was noted that a few schools had spent into a deficit. Am I right, Mr. Sanders? Yes, sir. Okay. And so how is that deficit going to be made up now that there is a place and a purpose for those driver's ed funds specifically to spending it on, maintaining the vehicles versus here's a school that is continuing to use the funds for what they traditionally have been used for, activity buses, and then there are still schools who are still going to be sitting on funds. And I guess what I'm getting around to is Stewart's Creek High School doing the best thing, and anybody else who's got any money, you better spend it quick before it gets absorbed up into a driver's ed maintenance
No,
program.
that won't happen. Let Mr. Sandy
I-
get to that.
I have kind of, and this is something we'll really have to get into during the budget process, but as Mr. Odom's comment, until we know more about what program might be available through NISOM, they would like to maintain some degree of working with us, sponsorship with us. But yeah, I agree, we will probably have to budget more, and we will probably have to come to terms with, okay, how ultimately do we want to handle these school activity buses? Do we set a number per school? And yeah, there's probably going to be a budgetary impact. When this request came through, we had, I think, 3 budgeted for this year. There is a separate reserve number on our books, but we have to budget for it in the GPS budget, and then it's trued up at year end. That's just the way the state has us, our auditors have us account for it. I kind of envisioned it, and Mr. Creasy called, and as a newer school, they have fewer buses. They have 2. And he really thought he would really like to get 2. And I didn't see any way to handle that. But I saw within our expenditures for this year, we had 3 budgeted, cover one of them. We have surpluses at Blackman, Laverne, Riverdale, a small surplus at Siegel, and a surplus at Smyrna. I had kind of wondered if a better route might be to use the new money going in as for driver's ed cars, those expenditures, and kind of let this bus money kind of play out and at kind of a gradual transition. Because the schools that have, we didn't know this was going to happen, we have some schools, the smaller schools, it's hard for them not to have a deficit
But we have schools
after they
that,
get a bus, because we haven't made them, you have to wait until you've got $98,000.
okay, but we have some schools that are in deficit,
We have some schools that are in deficits, absolutely.
and they are.
Central, again, hard there with that population to build up enough. They, last year, only got about $15,000 in state revenue. Some of our schools the bigger schools got the high 30s to the low 40s. It's driven by number of students. But by our support of the program, we pay for the teachers. Somehow we cover the other expenditures and all that. So I think we're fine, and we've always been fine in audit with the way we handle it. But I was thinking for some of the schools that are in deficit, probably let their driver's ed funds cover that deficit and build up until they do cover that, and then look at how we want to handle it going further out on the school activity bus issue.
So Central is the only one in deficit?
No, I'm sorry, I stopped. Depending on how we want to handle Eagleville's last bus, Eagleville is in a deficit again, very hard. Right now, we're showing it as just a driver's ed expenditure, but it's hard for them to get more buses. Riverdale, I'm sorry, Oakland. Yeah, Oakland has a little over a year's deficit. So Oakland, Eagleville, and Central have deficits. But Oakland will make theirs up in a year and a half or so.
Okay, I guess I'm just wondering, during that year and a half, how are we reconciling? Are we banking driver's ed money toward a common pot of driver's ed maintenance for vehicles? Or when do we get all on the same page.
Well,
Because, like you say, we didn't anticipate
Right.
this circumstance, but
Yeah.
equity would
Yeah.
require that we somehow
Sure.
figure it out, or as a board, we can choose to say, hey, we got this, and draw a line and say,
Yeah.
everything's even from this point forward.
I was, the advantage to me of starting and addressing the driver's ed car and maintenance issue, like it's new, I was thinking equity. We look at their enrollment, their participation, and allocate the money accordingly of that, and use that as a starting point, and kind of let the school activity bus issue flush itself out of this reserve item, kind of just as a transitional item. But we can't do both the buses and the driver's ed from the state funds that we get. We are going to have to put more money in for one side or the other.
Well, we never have been able to do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not new.
No. We have bought a few cars out of the driver's ed money, but it's not.
Yeah, used cars and everything.
Any other comments? Anything else on the consent agenda that anybody wants to address? If not, let's go on to page 5, I believe, is next. We will have some visitors perhaps on Thursday night, and then we get to do some really good things, don't we, Mr. Director? Talk to us.
Siegel High School Chamber Choir be here for some Christmas music for us. Good chance to hear. We have a wonderful choir in a lot of our schools, not only high schools, but in middle and sometimes elementary. But love to hear those voices. Good, it'll be a treat. Recognition, the Siegel High School boys cross country team won the state championship, and we bring in state and national champions into this. And unfortunately, we just found out this afternoon that Mr. Davis is not going to be able to make it tomorrow night, so we may have to roll him to another night. So he was Mr. Football from Riverdale, so we'll pick that one up.
Thursday.
Right, Thursday night, yeah, excuse me. That's true. And number 9, I think you want to report, Mr. Sandvik, I believe, has got a report on PESG, and he's passed out some handouts. You want to do that this time?
Absolutely. I've got a handout here. Am I the only one with it, or
No, I think it's
everybody's got it?
Just with some of the discussion that we've had here with PESG contract, I did ask Kim Woodson to join us tonight, in case you have any questions for her. We're in the first renewal year of this contract. When we go out for the sub-RFP, we do 1 year with 2 one-year renewals. We have the option to renew for the 2018-19 year at those prices that were approved back in spring of 2016 when it was awarded. Just some of the advantages, some of the pluses we've seen. This year, we have been able to hire, and we hired quite a few last year. Do you know how many we hired last year, Sam? Okay. This year, we have already hired 116 of their subs into 86 teaching positions and 32 support positions. In August alone, about 70 subs were hired as teachers. We basically, we get them, we call Kim and say, we're hiring, and
we send out an email to a sub pool and say they're hiring, please send me your resume to the principal, to the school that is hiring, and then they can interview them.
yeah. So it's been a very good source, especially for teaching positions. And we can get them in pretty quickly as subs and then switch them over. We went with PESG's alternate proposal plan. We pay a higher administrative fee under this plan, but PESG uses these funds to pay an incentive bonus to the subs who work for us. The last page in the packet is an article I came across on a system using an incentive to encourage the subs to teach more days. If a sub works 10 consecutive days, this bonus is $50. If a sub works 20, it goes to 100. We have a group of 120-day subs who are working more than 20 days or more for some of our more extended leaves, they do not get this bonus. And PESG, another thing that they have done and started last year, we have two categories, premier and permanent subs, where we have more difficulty filling. These subs get an additional $20 per day. Last year it was $10, which is paid out of this higher administration fee. It is not an expenditure to us. The bonuses aren't an expenditure to us, but they are covered from it. I talked to Mr. Bledsoe this morning and Kim, and PESG paid $218,000 in these bonuses for number of days worked and the premier and permanent subs last year. My evaluation of the RFP showed a $208,000 higher cost for this alternative proposal plan, where we get 97% fill, or they have to pay us some money back, 97% fill as of 7 o'clock. So the higher administrative fee is more than going to compensate subs who are working all the days school is open or are working, covering those 10, 20 days and getting the bonus.
That cost is coming from through, that's being paid by Rutherford County. It's not, PSG is paying it. but Rutherford
PSG
County is
pays
funding it.
those two pieces out of this higher administrative fee with no additional expenditure to us. Yeah, but when we pay a higher administrative fee to get that fill guarantee and all. We also get a rebate if our 7 a.m. fill rate averages less than 97%. Last year we were at 96.68 and we got $11,835. As of the end of November, when I talked to Henry, the number he was looking at was 96.5%, and that fill rate was 1 hour out. They give their subs an hour after the call. Late calls are the problem. Late calls are where we miss the getting the positions filled. If they have, if people know they're going to be out, our fill rate gets much higher. So I don't know how that will compare to the 7 a.m. fill, but he just did have that piece of information at hand. And I did not think of this when our discussion came up. Our request for proposal, Ms. Barnes did include 3 levels of pay at it. The first level was our existing 2015-16 pay, and when we went with and we were already far enough along in the budget process, we were pretty sure we would go with B, which was a $5 per day increase. We put that in the 2016-17 budget and used the same rate in this year's budget. But our RFP did include yet another option where we could go another $5 per day raise, which would take us to 85 for a retired teacher with degree and license, 80 for a teacher with degree and license, and 75 for the other side. But that option was included in the RFP. So we had bid prices from other providers, and PESG was our low provider. It was only by $4,000. Some of the bids were very close. But that next low bid did not meet the criteria of the RFP, and we had to toss it out, but I included it in the financial comparison just to see where the dollars were. I don't remember. We had a couple of responders who did not meet the terms of the RFP, and we have to kick them out. I meant to add this and did not think of it. In my office, one of the things we talked to Henry and Kim and Daniel about last year while we were moving on this was automating our leave sheets. The Thanksgiving 2-week file had 1,571 lines of leave on it. Huge spreadsheet. One of the full 2-week periods of late had 1,870 lines of data. In my office, we would have stacks that you almost, and they weren't type readers, people like to dump them up, put them in the copy machine, but we would have stacks going before us that were that high, once and twice a month. All of that process was done manually. PSG worked with us, and at no charge to us. It wasn't in the RFP, but they did develop a workflow leave sheet. Some people don't like them. Well, it's much easier for us to upload 1,500, 1,800, and it's not, some of the leave sheets will have more than one day, so it's not that many, but we would have stacks in that foot to over a foot range that we'd be sending to the courthouse every 2 weeks. So that has been a real plus for us. I also attached, there was some discussion of it, Dr. Anthony got some of the what neighboring systems are paying. And I think there was some confusion. The Murfreesboro number was just provided as a comparison for us. Yeah, that not that PESG has the Murfreesboro contract, but just that there's discussion of comparison because that is a main competitive market for us. That go to Murfreesboro or come here. If you will notice on that, we've wondered if we do have some trouble with this. Metro Nashville, their lowest pay is $90. So we probably do have some people in Smyrna Laverne who, for the $20 a day, would rather cross the county line. But just for your information, to see what some of the other rates are.
That's a thing that was a little disappointing to me from the last meeting we discussed this. I asked for a report showing what percentage of the subs for each category. I'd also like to see it per school,
Okay,
and I still don't have that information.
okay. What kind of periods do you want?
I mean, we're paying it out by positions that are certified, retired, bachelor's or higher
Okay.
degree, and we have subs without degrees.
Okay.
I'd like to see
By cat,
what
okay.
percentage of subs
By
are filling-
subcategory,
are filling
okay.
in that's in each category.
Okay, and what period? And the reason I
Let's
asked
take
that.
the last year.
Okay, that will take several days because each file is separate.
I thought they had all this data in the bank somewhere. They could just
Well,
pull it
I'm
up.
looking from my side. Can you pull it from your side? Okay, okay,
I can pull up my
Okay.
classification.
okay. And I'm, on my side, I get a spreadsheet for each 2-week period, so it'd be.
And I would like to also know how many subs do we have that's driving from other counties into this county to sub?
Okay,
I would say at least a third of the sub-pool works in
Yeah.
surrounding counties.
But-
When we call each one to ask them to accept the job, a lot of times we give them an answer that I'm looking for another school district.
And I'd also like to know,
Take last minute jobs for the way they're looking for.
I'd also like to know what our retention rate is.
Retention rate is really good. We had, at the end of last year, about 700 subs. We started with about 700 this year. We're down to like 610 over the hiring, but we have hired more. And we've been attending a lot of events and doing a lot of recruiting. And the retention has been great.
So then it makes me go back to why are we wanting to increase the pay? If we're only off by 10% here, according to this. We were at 96.68, we dropped down to 96.5 in November. So why would we raise the pay?
my thought was looking at trying to remain competitive with neighboring systems. That trying to get the fill rate higher if we can. And right now, we were high 80s with our previous provider, and then as it became clear that we were probably moving to another provider, that fill rate dropped from there. But we are getting a substantially higher fill rate with where we are. Yeah. So if y'all aren't interested in that, that's not something we have.
I just
to
don't
do.
think throwing money at this is going to fix the problem. I mean, we've already thrown money at it, it didn't fix the problem. We gotten better where we were previously, but over the last year, it's like we're dropping down. You know, last meeting, I got a number of 91% from somewhere.
And we will, generally by the time, I don't remember to log in when I first get here. The 97% guarantee is based at where we are at 7 a.m. because it is the late calls that are most challenging.
So our fill rate has not dropped down to 91%.
Not our average, no, but at some points when there will be days when you'll see it be that low. Last Friday, I think we had over 400 people out, just over 4.
They were close to 400.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
how do we
by the end
validate,
of the day.
how do we validate these numbers that ESG give us? These numbers they provide us, telling us what our fill rates are. How do we validate those numbers?
The leaves are all entered in the system, requested by our teachers, verified by the timekeepers at the schools and/or the principals. So we have our employees going in and PESG filling from that, and then our employees going in and verifying that, yes, so-and-so was out and that the sub was here.
But I'm talking about up here at central office, who looks at the total number and say, yeah, we had 200 people out today. And PSG reported we had 200 people out. Did they fill that many positions?
Well, I guess we rely on the system because that mix of input from us, from our teachers and EAs, PESG filling, and our verification at the school level. That's what we rely on.
Does the principal, secretary at the school, or something like that
Yes.
typically verify who's out?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This one requested and this one
Yeah.
was out. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
But they only know for that school. They don't know for the whole county.
But each school knows it's, and we
Okay, they
take
load
the
that up to you.
aggregate.
You guys, you get it here at central office, you get a total number, and you validate that.
Oh, we rely on the system to validate it because we have our employees on both ends and PESG in the middle.
Maybe it'd help if I could see that report, if you could provide that for me.
Okay, I mean,
That may answer a lot of questions.
okay.
We are in general $5 behind the city of Murfreesboro. Is that correct? Just in general.
Murfreesboro pays 80 for a teacher. So yes, we are 5. We have an $80 category, but it is for a retired teacher. And Murfreesboro pays 80 for a bachelor's or higher. We pay 70 for a bachelor's if you are not certified, correct? Yeah. So if you have someone with a bachelor's who is not certified, there's a $10 difference. If you've got a certified teacher, there's a $5 difference. Unless it's a retired teacher, then we're the same.
Any other comments on this tonight? Or is somebody coming in on Thursday from PSG, or she's here tonight?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's the report is on the agenda. There's nothing here about any motions. So I don't know exactly where we go from here. I don't know how the board really feels about it. I know Mr. Young has got some more to say on this. I know that, but it's not really about PESG necessarily, and it's in our future whenever he decides to bring it up. If we wanted to raise the amount, and I agree with him about throwing money at it. I see his point. So we go up $5. So the city of Murfreesboro goes up $5. So then we go up $5, and you see the problem. If somebody, now we're only in. If somebody could convince me different, I guess, and I don't know if the board wants to comment on this or not, but we're only in competition with the city of Murfreesboro on grades K through 6. So that cuts down a great deal on the amount of competition that we have with them. On the other hand, if somebody, Smyrna, Laverne or not, if they want to drive into Nashville
Oh, absolutely.
and make $5 or $10 more a day, God bless them. Go ahead. I wouldn't drive down there for that. I can tell you that much. But maybe there are people that want to do that. So I don't feel any particular pressure for Rutherford County to keep up with those surrounding systems. But the city of Murfreesboro, I do kind of understand that. Are there further comments, board? Mr. Holliday?
I'm noticing that there is a consistent difference between the categories that we have set and the categories that are present in other systems. And I'm not saying that necessarily it should be a reason for change, but we don't distinguish between a sub without a degree at $70 and a sub with a bachelor's or higher degree is also at $70. It seems like consistently other systems recognize that a substitute that has a college degree, though it may not be applicable to education, there is a step up in pay. And I might be able to see a reason for us recognizing that distinguishing mark between the two. I really like that we still have that special thing that a teacher who is retired from our system and is certified is still our highest paid and most valued substitute teacher. Again, I make the point because they're familiar with our system, they understand our values and our principles here in Rutherford County, and they certainly should be our most valuable substitute teacher, perhaps in those retired years.
Well, and that was one of the things Ms. Barnes felt strongly from difficulties we were having filling some of our subs, especially for EAs. She felt strongly we needed a comparable rate because the SPED EAs in some of our classes are very challenging to fill, and we were having a lot more trouble filling those. So when this RFP was designed, that is the reason she went with the $70, including them in that same rate, just so we could get people in. It's not, there can be some challenging positions.
Ms. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, just a couple of things I want to note, and again, I guess I'm a little unclear too as to whether or not are we really, going to be addressing, or are we looking for a pay raise, so to speak, for the subs. The drop hasn't been that much, but I do foresee it very possibly getting worse, and I do want to give PESG some credit because having been in the staffing business for 30 years, for a staffing company just to give up their temporary employees, look at it that way, to a client when maybe they've only worked a day or a week or even a month is highly unusual, and it's a huge concession on the part of the staffing company. And I think we're very fortunate that PSG allows us to hire those good employees without any charge. Usually there's some kind of a fee or a surcharge, a buyout, if you will, is what the staffing industry usually calls it. And I know they have risen to the occasion, and they've surpassed the previous staffing company, although I didn't think that they were that bad. From a performance standpoint and fulfilling those fill rates, they've done a good job. But I can see it getting harder and harder between the numbers that we're hiring and, again, competing with the pay rates, especially from right here in our own city. I don't know if the timing right now is necessarily ideal for addressing a pay increase, but if that fill rate continues to drop with all of the things that they do right from a recruiting standpoint and the efforts that they're making, I do think it's something that we're going to need to take a look at.
I ask an unfair question, but she may be able to answer it, and if you can't, okay. But I kind of would like an answer to this maybe Thursday. We had 400 people out, what day?
The
I heard
first,
about
I
this.
believe.
Matter of fact, a number of us heard about this from various principals. But what day was it?
Friday the 1st, I believe.
Friday the 1st. How many of those were filled? Forget the 7 o'clock thing. Is it possible to know that? If you got 610,
A little over 300. And as the day progressed, you did start out with 300. But it ended up, 400. But by the end of the day, people leaving throughout the day, it started with about 355. And they ended up close to 400.
400 people were out,
Yes.
and you had 300 people, is that what you said? Now, I'm sorry, I'll
We
make
filled
sure I
about
understand.
320 positions.
Okay. Okay. You get that, Mr.
That's the
Young?
lowest day we've ever had since we've been here. That's the lowest day we had on field rates.
Even lower than Christmas Village?
Even lower than Christmas Village.
Yeah, I figured that's what it was.
Okay.
Ask Ms. Woodson another question. Out of those, Ms. Woodson, out of the 320 that you were able to fill, well, no, let me back up. Out of the entire 400 absences, how many of those were short notice calls versus long-term subs or positions that you knew you had to fill, excuse me, before Friday, anyway,
Excellent
or
question.
before Thursday night? Okay.
What time do you start calling?
5:30 a.m. We are in the office at 5:30, and the first thing we do is fill the premier. We take our subs we have 22 subs that come in that we call them and tell them what jobs are available in the Laverne and Samar area. And they go to those schools first, and then we start at the top of the list of ones who came in first, and then go down to the ones who came in last. But most of the time, you just call the subs, and if they'll take any job, we'll just have it. We don't care where, when it came in, we don't measure that, we measure getting jobs filled. And we have 3 people who call.
One other question, as far as the statistics that they were talking about, the information Gina was asking for earlier. When you all are calling subs and we get the answers that, well, I'm working for another school district, or, well, I guess really that would pretty much be it. Are you trying to track those to get some kind of numbers as far as where we could judge or how we could assess how many we're really losing, whether it's on a daily basis or long-term, doesn't matter. I think how many we're losing to taking positions with the city school or going to Lebanon. Do you have any data at all on that?
We don't, but we can do a survey. We'll be glad to do a survey for all the subs and ask.
Well, I think it's important because I know you had mentioned, and Henry had mentioned maybe a couple of times that the phone calls that are being made, that you're hearing that response. So if indeed that's attributing to the lower fill rate, then yeah, I definitely think it would be a good idea if we could start tracking it.
And it has increased, that response this year.
Okay.
And that's what made me look on the Murfreesboro City website, is because I'm trying to figure out what's going on. You know, why are our subs not taking the job like they did last year? That's my responsibility, to find a trend that's going on.
Right.
And so that's when I realized that they had increased. And plus, I'm making phone calls myself, and they're telling me the same thing. You know, I'm sorry, I've already picked up a job in Murfreesboro City Schools or another county.
And I think if we could track some stats on that, it would be very
I will
helpful.
absolutely do that, yes, ma'am.
I would suggest too, that since our unemployment rate is like 3%, a lot of people are working full-time somewhere. You know, they're just not, maybe not that many people available. I don't know.
We have a lot of people working. A lot of y'all have a lot of students.
Right.
You know, we work with a lot of students. And then I believe once MTS, U is out and the other surrounding colleges for a couple of weeks, I'm sure we'll have more people working, because I do know that also. I've already had people responding, so I'll be out this day, and they're already accepting jobs.
Is there something that any board member wants to add here on number 9 for Thursday night?
I just want to make it clear, I understood earlier we had 700 people in our pool, but we couldn't fill 400 positions on that Friday, is that right?
Well, according to stats, if you'll pull it up from the Department of Ed and from Steady, who does this for a living, they do the research based, your 3 to 1 is what you want your sub-pool to be. On an average, it's 250, 200, 250, that we are at that. We have the 3 to 1. But we're also, while we're recruiting, our people have been in your schools this week, they've been going to attending the villages, they've been out attending the PTOs, we've been setting up booths, we attended fairs, we're gonna be in the parade this Sunday. We're doing all kinds of recruitment to get more people, because if we're gonna continue with a 400 absence, we're gonna have 1,200 people, because it's a 3 to 1.
I think we're gonna be serious trouble as a school district if we continue to have more people out.
I couldn't agree more with that.
We've got to look at what we can do on our end to fix that problem. But at the same time, I was just a little confused why we had 700 people in the pool, we couldn't find 400 people to fill positions.
And you have retired teachers, and you have people who are subbing only because they can sub a couple of days a week. They just want to work a couple of days. And honestly, I don't care if they just want to work Monday and Friday, as long as they work Monday and Friday. I'll take them whenever I can get them. Any day you want to work, I'll take them.
Maybe we should add an incentive bonus for Fridays or something like that.
Absolutely. And that's why we went up to the $20 for Laverne, because we know that the county surrounding that is pulling on those subs. And it has helped. It has increased in that area of the county.
That's the reason I'd like to see numbers by schools, that way we can target certain areas that we think we need to look at that area, add more incentives, and we can do that. But I don't do it for the whole county. If we've only got a problem with Laverne, I want to fix Laverne.
And your principals and their secretaries do receive a report every morning and every afternoon with the people who are out, so they can see the number that's changed from the morning to the afternoon. That helps them track their absences for their school also.
Mr. Odom, does a building administrator have the authority to place a limit on approved absences?
Where you have, for holidays or events like that under your policy, administrator has to approve that. There's not much on a call in sick leave per se. Teaching, Tennessee is good to teachers in that it's a rather liberal policy. When you relate that a person can get a day per month, 2 personal days per year also. So every teacher is getting at least 12 days per year. You have those people that will accumulate them. Unused sick leave goes towards retirement. That you can then apply, get extra months on your retirement. We try to let people know that. The other issue is teachers tend to be female, younger, with children at home. So some of those late calls that you get is Junior woke up throwing up this morning. And they're caught in those situations if it didn't happen at night. And that's not true, that wouldn't be as true in other occupations as much as because I have such a high percentage that would be moms with children. Just one of those things. But yes, administrators have some control over those days before holidays and all. That's in your policy.
Okay.
It is in our policy.
Yeah, there's, the number's about, 10%, I think, or something like that, to try to hold it no more than a 10%. Some days you'd have that, some days you may have other requests. But now that typically is for, I want to use my personal day or something like that. I mean, we're not talking about 10% sick, and if anybody else is sick, you still can't do that.
Right.
I can remember a couple of times that we were, well, I don't know about the policy. I know at a faculty meeting, we were asked by the principal that Friday sure would be a good day to come to work. Or it was put politely. And I don't remember if anybody ever applied for a day and it wasn't approved. I don't know, maybe so. If you're sick, you're sick, right?
Well, yeah, and you don't get permission if you're sick.
Right.
But you get permission
There's
if
a lot
you
of
want
ways
to use
around that.
one of your 2 personal days that you want to do that. You do request that ahead of time.
Right. This is a knotty problem, and as we have repeatedly proven on this board, and we're really on the same page here. I mean, we're really in the same business. What you all do I mean, it's tough. I know it is. I just,
It's obviously an issue across the state too, because the legislature, you know, with people that retired, to try to get retired teachers to come back, they actually gave some, a little bit more flexibility on using up your retirement, getting too many days, or you lose your retirement pay, you know. So the legislature tried to help with this also, to try to, because they recognize, well, I'm sure Department of Ed and all recognize the need to have certified people in the classroom.
I discussed this thoroughly, as a matter of fact, again, with the education expert at my house. That would be my wife. And she didn't understand why this was a problem. She worked in industry for 38 years before she retired. And she didn't understand why, and I explained to her that the state gave 10 days plus 2 other days on a 10-month year. And she said, y'all are crazy. Yeah, well, that's the 12 days. Yeah. And she said, y'all are crazy. She said, that would never work in industry. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that does create a problem.
One of the other categories we have is vacant positions. I'm surprised even at this point in the year how many vacant positions we have, which is there's another code for those. So it's where we have not been able to get someone with a suitable degree who we think will be a successful teacher for us.
So are we filling those as a substitute every day?
Yes.
And not doing a long term?
What, if we can get along.
If
You
we,
don't, you don't know how many days you're gonna
Right.
have.
Yeah.
Very often,
Yeah.
that's kind of your issue.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody can come in this afternoon that is certified physician, that
Yeah.
the principal can interview and recommend, we turn it around in a day.
Yeah.
I mean, if we get it, we up
Right.
here, we'll turn it around.
Yeah.
Dr. Anthony will call them. But there's a shortage of people in certain areas. The math, the sciences, the foreign languages, librarians, counselors. The list is getting longer and longer. We talked about that. I mean, I think MTSU is telling us this year people graduating in math is two students. Now, how many school districts in Middle Tennessee are going to be out there trying to recruit those 2 people? You have more retirees than that. There's a serious shortage developing. Just plain simple.
I would assume that you got probably plenty of people that, for whatever, they won't drive to Eagleville, or they won't teach kindergarten, which I wouldn't step in, I'd be in jail. So, by 8 o'clock, it would be over for me, or them. But I assume you have people like that. I really wasn't trying to be.
Well, we do recruit in those areas.
Right.
And so that's why we attend, like at Walter Hill, or we attend in Buchanan, we attend those PTOs, because we are there with parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles, where they can see that we're hiring. And, you know, say, it's flexible, your schedule's flexible, you know, so we target those areas that's hard to fill. That's why we attend events in those areas that's hard to fill. And I didn't say this, and Jeff doesn't even know this, Mr. Sanford. We had hired someone at 3 o'clock, and she starts making calls, and she calls for 3 hours, filling tomorrow's jobs. So we fill jobs from 5:30 to 12, and then we start again at 3, filling them for the next day.
I was thinking it was 3 o'clock.
It's 3 o'clock, we start again filling for the next day. So, but yeah, and that's why why we're going to be in the fair. In the parade this Sunday, we figure we're going to target a lot of people from everywhere. We are hiring substitute teachers.
So you're going to have a float?
Yes, we have flood. We do. Yes, we do.
And there's going to be Santa.
We don't know who's going to be Santa, but they want us all to go as reindeer, but we're not. But we do have some school desks, and I told them we should use computers, but they're wanting to use books. So
I love that things you're doing from a recruiting standpoint, very creative and aggressive, so we thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome, and we will be at MTSU on their job fair on the 13th.
Board, let's move on, but I'm going to submit something here that I think Mr. Young is going to echo. He's already said it. this entire problem of absences is something that we are going to have to do something. I'll just leave it at that, and then we can find out what that is. I guess we can start Thursday, and if the board will permit me, let's move on. Number 10.
Number 10 is facilities.
Thank you.
First one is Blackman Middle School softball dugouts. Principal Will Shelton has requested permission to construct dugouts at the softball field at Blackman Middle School. The visitors' dugout will be 10 feet by 18 feet, and the home dugout will be 10 feet by 28 feet. The dugouts will be standard constructions with a slab, concrete blocks, and metal roofing. The construction will be funded through donations and money from the softball boosters at no cost to the Rutherford County School Board. The approximate cost will be about $1,500. The motion will be to approve construction of softball dugouts at Blackman Middle School softball field as presented at no cost to the Rutherford County School Board.
Comments from board members?
Mr. Chairman, I have no problems with this at all, but is that $1,500 number correct?
What do you think, Mr. Sandry? I had some of the same thoughts.
For two
They
full
may have donations.
dugouts?
That's what you run into.
So everything's in kind?
Right. Okay. I was gonna say, I figured it cost a lot more to construct those than that, so. Okay.
Anything else, board? Part B.
Part B is Central Magnet Auditorium HVAC installation. At the request of the Engineering and Construction Department, Maynard Select has submitted a proposal to design, manage, and install an energy-efficient HVAC system for the auditorium at Central Magnet School. The system design and installation will include 3 high-efficiency units, ductwork, energy management controls, and gas piping, with the inclusion of structural engineering, mechanical engineering, and a roof structure modification. The cost for this project is not to exceed $299,000 and is all-inclusive. This proposal conforms to Tennessee Bid Law 12-4-115, and the motion is to approve Maynard Select's proposal for Central Magnet Auditorium HVAC system as presented for a cost not to exceed $299,000. This will be funded through capital improvement budget. I asked Mr. Clardy a question today related to this. We used to see Hawk Mechanical was a lot of the ones that did it. This company's purchased Hawk, am I correct? So really, you got a lot of the same people that have done with our energy management system. This how they were kind of tied in.
Comment?
I just wanted to say that this is something that I've heard from Central Magnet parents and also faculty and staff there, that this is greatly needed. And there are probably other areas at Central Magnet where we would like to upgrade, particularly the ventilation system, because it is an older facility. But this is certainly a step in the right direction, and I'm appreciative of the engineering department for finding the place in the capital improvement budget for this.
Any other comment? Part C.
Part C is the Eagleville Sea Wing HVAC installation. At the request of the Engineering and Construction Department, Maynard Select has submitted a proposal to design, manage, and install an energy-efficient HVAC system for the Sea Wing at Eagleville High School. You'll recall that this is the unfinished basement of our Phase 2 addition. The system design and installation will include an energy-efficient outdoor unit, wall-mounted high-efficiency units, branch controller, wall-mounted controller, condensation pumps, connection to the system controller, and net hardware connected into the existing energy management system. The cost for this project is not to exceed $231,000 and is all-inclusive with the exception of a permit. This proposal conforms to the Tennessee Bid Law 12-4-115. The motion will be to approve Maynard Select's proposal for the Eagle Sea Wing HVAC system as presented for a cost not to exceed $231,000, and this will be funded through the capital improvement budget.
Comment from the board? Part D.
Part D is the Riverdale High School softball building, HVAC. Principal Ryan Nance has requested permission to install HVAC in the softball building at Riverdale High School. The cost to the Booster Club is $2,672 for duct plus electrical supplies. Hiller and Moeller are donating HVAC units, and Hiller is donating the installation labor. There will be no cost to Rutherford County School Board. Riverdale High School will be responsible for all permits, plus following state and local codes. Motion to approve installation of HVAC at the softball building at Riverdale High School is presented at no cost to the Rutherford County School Board. What would we do without community partners here?
I'll tell you.
It's significant.
Comments from the board? Number 11.
Number 11 is under financial matters. This is athletic trainers for the 2018-2019 school year. The requirements to be certified as an athletic trainer are changing at the national level. The program will require a master's degree before the trainer can be certified. Rutherford County schools have been able to rely on the MTSU graduate students who are already certified as athletic trainers who worked part-time as trainers for us through National Health Corporation. It looks as though we need to allow Brad Rowling, who runs NHC's program, authorization to start interviewing and screening for 3 potential certified athletic trainers for the 2018-2019 school year. The 2018-2019 budget will need to address this program. Brad does not think he will be able to rely on some certified athletic trainers who are also our certified career technical education teachers. One of them has already indicated that he does not plan to continue doing both jobs. NHC plans to wind down its support of the program during the next school year, but they will continue some financial support next year. We're looking at other potential sponsors, but we'll need to start moving this program to our budget, and we will have to budget full-time athletic trainers because of the change in the certification process. Recommend approval of the motion is to allow Brad Rowling, who runs NHC's program authorization, to start interviewing and screening for 3 potential certified athletic trainers for the 2018-2019 school year. I want you to note that the motion does not say hire. It's the process because it's going to be competitive to begin to try to identify potential people, and then we'll have to make a decision.
Questions from the board?
Are we going to need to review a job description for these positions?
I think we will. I mean, yeah, and get Dr. Anthony on that some, because if they're our direct employees, if this comes, we will have a job description for them. I'm not sure what the new requirement with the masters, we'll have to seek someone to help us write that job description, but I'm not sure that I'm qualified to write that one, because I don't know what the technical specifications are at this point.
I think Tim Tackett likely is, along with Brad.
He does when he is.
Will we, are 3 positions going to be adequate for our needs?
And it's probably become 4 because of that CTE teacher, but it kind of, we're looking at this as a possible transition. This is the time frame when he began reviewing and interviewing candidates last year in order to have them on board for this school year. So I don't know that we can wait until budget season, but this is not committing us to doing anything other than saying, yeah, start your
Some of
reviewing, interviewing.
Some of your board members also been meeting on this with Mr. Tackett, so that has more in-depth information, I think.
Yeah.
So, as you're looking at other options,
Yeah.
we know in some cases, like, for example, Williamson County's Vanderbilt is doing theirs, pick that. But you have to realize Williamson County Medical Center is a Vanderbilt facility. So we just don't know at this particular point. Are there other options out there where we've had TOA and NHC? Are there other options out there? Will at some time there be an RFP? I think we just need to have, we've got to have 2 plans, one that we can implement and one to decide what's the next step we need to do.
board members have been in discussion. Can you elaborate?
There's a committee, I think, that looked at this early on, right, Mr. Jordan? Yeah, when we first found out about it.
Mr. Hodge, anything to add?
Just one board member been involved with it. The reason I got involved with it, Mr. Jordan asked me to be on safety committee. We've had one meeting, a lot of this was news to me, of what's coming down the pipe. And Mr. Sandberg's been meeting, also. Somewhere down the line, as far as school system goes, we're going to be responsible. As long as we're going to have athletic programs, we're going to be responsible to have somebody on board, staff-wise.
These athletic trainers.
What's going on is with the MTSU's program out there, anybody that goes through it, and I think Mr. Sandberg can allude to it, they're hiring all their graduates, MTSU. So Brad thinks it's going to be somewhat of a problem to try to find these people. Right now, the middle schools they're not even covered. Just don't have enough people to do it. So NHC's deal is they agreed to go through this year and next year, and then they'll be out after that. And so we, this committee asked Brad, well, just four of us, Brad, myself, Mr. Sandberg, and Mr. Tackett, wanted Brad to basically check with TOA to see if they'll pick up some of the additional, and then may have to look on the outside. But the bottom line is, somewhere down the line, we're going to, as long as we got athletic programs, somewhere along the line, we're going to be picking up this cost. So, in talking to Mr. Sandberg, we thought if we're going to do it, might as well start looking at it now and gradually work into it. So, basically, that's where your three positions come up. So, Mr. Sandberg may have more than that.
That's what we know at this point, just trying to keep y'all aware of what we're looking at. We don't know how it's going to turn out, but I think this is an early stage too. And we will be looking at other options, talking to other school systems, seeing how things are handled.
It's really good they've given us a year, kind of to work on, in essence, so if they would fund through next year, that's very nice. In this case, it's not immediate.
Is there any possibility that we could get any overlap or synergy with our school nurses and use their medical skills in this area as well?
I think that's a separate skill. Between an athletic trainer and a nurse. Totally different. I'm not sure their insurance would kind of cover that situation because you see now you're talking master's degree to get this. Some of your nurses are BSRNs and all too. Well, that immediately wouldn't necessarily be. I would be surprised that somebody might carry both certifications myself.
Would we anticipate, or is there a possibility that any of our coaching staff would have this certification, or do we need to review job descriptions there and add this certification so that we can hire coaching staff that do have this?
I'm not a coach, but I would not necessarily want to be the coach and the athletic trainer myself.
What would an athletic trainer do when they're not training? I mean, is that a full-time job, or I guess that depends on that job description we haven't written yet, right?
Some of them have been, we've had some that have degrees as teaching our health science programs. So that's what some of the ones that have been doing it. So they may teach during the day and then do the athletic training some after school. But see, those people have certifications in the health background by the mere fact that they're teaching. And it says it, in the information here, career and technical education background in the health science. So there are a few of those, possibly, but still an unknown quantity until Mr. Rowling gets out there and starts trying to see who's available to interview. I think there may be more revelations coming across. When you cut off the spigot that we had at MTSU, and now not have the crystal ball to know where it's going, right? You know what I'm saying?
We want, I will mention, we're supposed to, Mr. Tackett, I hadn't heard anything from Mr. Tackett, but, we are supposed to meet again in January, so.
With the anticipation of full-time positions being added to our staff, is it appropriate for Dr. Anthony, or with the medical coordination appropriate for our Director of Coordinated School Health or Director of Nursing to be involved in that committee process, or is this still just an athletic-only perspective?
I think there are different criteria. She was involved with us when we looked at you remember the software that we brought in here that tracks, that parents can go through?
Right.
She was very much a part of that tracking.
Which one?
Sarah Dale Bridge, who
Okay.
is our nursing
All right.
supervisor. I mean, I don't see a particular problem with that. Her angle of looking at it is more injuries after the fact. The athletic trainer is trying to prevent injuries and do on-site stuff at that particular time. One of the reasons for the app that we have, that the nurses, when the kid comes back to school the next day, could look and see what was the injury, what was the recommendations, physician or something made. But she was a part of that, and I'd kind of leave it up to the committee. If y'all want to bring her in, I think she'd be glad to do that if that's appropriate.
My last question is, undoubtedly, this is largely going to be used by our football and that athletic program, but Title IX is going to demand that somehow, as we put these into full-time positions in our system, we're going to need to account for their availability, at least, to multiple athletic opportunities. Am I right in interpreting that?
Well, I think athletic trainers, when they are at a site, do some of that anyway. Soccer would certainly be one of those areas from time to time. But your impact sport highly is certainly football.
Okay.
That we see the majority of that. Mr. Hollis?
I'll just elaborate on that a little bit, because, Oakland's got a full-time guy out there, and I believe he teaches also. But as I mentioned in the meeting to Brad, I mean, that guy's literally Superman as far as I'm concerned. He goes football practice, he goes softball practice, he covers all of them, according to Brad. And I know it's been 3 weeks ago when the football team was still practicing. I saw him at the basketball game that night. And I brought it up to Brad, and Brad said, as young as he is, he can do it right now. But he said somebody older won't never be able to do it. But that guy, basically, I think he covers all sports.
Yeah, and if that's the case, it may be that it's not reasonable to expect that individual would have any teaching duties or something like that. Their day starts at 2:30 in the afternoon and goes until 9 o'clock that night, depending on what all's going on. But as we explore that, I'm just curious as to how we outline that position. But
And we kick around the idea of trying to, look at it just like what you're talking about, but also get more involved with CTE and let's say part of it, and then the other part, the athletic training part. So, we're still talking about that. And we just, like I said, we just had one meeting, so.
okay.
Number 12, insurance update. Dr.
So,
Anthony, what do you have for us?
Yes. One new thing that the wellness team will be advertising is there's a new program called Active and Fit Direct through our Cigna product. And so you'll hear Mr. Puckett and his team announce that there's a $25 fee to join and a $25 per month fee where they can use any gym within the Cigna network. So some additional activities that many teachers have probably received. I know I received mine last night. The magnets that have just arrived through the mail about all the new active and fit activities that the wellness program is going to provide for us in the spring. So everybody should be watching for that mailing.
Questions for Dr. Anthony? Director's update.
The only thing that I have tonight is we've been told that maybe mid to late December before we get a state report card, and this is when it comes out every year. Kind of says your per pupil expenditure, that sort of thing, we kind of look forward to seeing. But it's much later this year, and it's probably partially related to what you heard last evening, that they're still trying to pull some pieces together. I mean, we have second grade, how many second grade classrooms at campus still have never had theirs scored? I don't really know still.
I would make a comment, but I'm going to be nice tonight.
Ms. Moore, anything on TLN?
Well, it's pretty quiet up there on the hill right now. I expect things will start picking up after the holidays, but of course, the last couple of weeks, we've had opportunity to interact with our legislators between the joint meeting with the city school board, and last night with the commissioner and the representatives and Senator Ketchum that showed up, and, I'm encouraged by the headway with the relationships there, and hopefully they're listening a little better than perhaps has happened in the past in terms of our needs and our suggestions and recommendations. So really excited about Mr. Blair and Mr. Duke getting to serve on this task force that will have that kind of representation from Rutherford County. But right now, no pending bills. I expect that we're going to see vouchers come up again next year, especially given the fact that our federal secretary of education, was very public in her last announcement after her visit here that she's still very much in support of it. But otherwise, nothing else to report.
Mr. Holliday?
Well, I'll share with you that the House and Senate tax cut bills that have passed recently had some impact on education, and specifically the expansion of the 529 college savings plans. Both versions include an expansion of that 529 college savings plan now to allow individuals to save pre-tax dollars and use up to $10,000 of those dollars for K through 12 education as well. In the Senate, that was a 50-50 vote with the Vice President breaking the tie. Very reflective of the Betsy DeVos confirmation vote. And while school choice certainly views that as a victory, it may not be terribly threatening to us immediately, but it certainly is something that we should keep on our radar and be concerned about. The House and Senate will work to reconcile those two versions of that bill, and there's a possibility that might not survive, but with it appearing in both bills, most likely it would.
There's also another difference, and that affects teachers, basically. The House version, I believe I recall, teachers were allowed $250 if they itemized deductions, yes, if they spend it on their classroom. And the Senate doubled it to $500, but the House bill took it totally away. So that'll be interesting to see what happens in that resolution from the teachers' standpoint.
You're correct. It is there.
Just wondering, Mr. Holliday, when Secretary DeVos went to Oakland High School and highly praised the CTE and various parts of the curriculum over there, do you think that she understands that when she went to Nashville the next day, that what she saw at Oakland High School, which is excellent, would likely never be in a charter school? Do you think she knew that?
I think it's undeniable, and I don't think she can possibly miss it. And yet, with an individual that gains their confirmation at a 50-50 vote, I'm not surprised that comments that are made a day after such an experience are completely unrelated and disjointed from the experience that she had at Oakland High School. I hope that the experience at Oakland High School does indeed impact her, and our director of schools made a pointed statement that what is happening in Rutherford County can be replicated. I would echo that to say that innovation in education never occurs because of something that happens in some type of private education or charter education system. When you find something that works in public education, when you find a public school that's working, that's the one that everybody gets excited about, goes to see, and replicates. And right now, Oakland High School specifically, and Rutherford County schools as a whole, are the model for the nation. And we know that because the Secretary of Education came here to see it. You know, we're very, very proud of our CTE program, but there's more than just our pride that gets the Secretary of Education to come down here and take a look at the synergy between corporate sponsorship, civic sponsorship, our Chamber of Commerce, our institutions of higher learning, and our public education system, all working together for the greater good.
You know, Oakland did a good job of getting the right people at the table.
Absolutely.
When you got somebody representing Nissan there, it's the largest automobile manufacturing plant in the nation,
Yeah.
and he said that.
Yes.
You got Swan Drug there, it's a German company that came and built over here, and said they were looking at places to go, and they found this program here that helped them choose. She had to hear that, because it was said.
She had to hear.
She had to hear it.
She had to hear that MTSU is the only higher institution in the United States with that Siemens Level 3 certification. And that is the credibility that we need. We've got to be feeding from our school system into these excellent programs, and then we've got to point it out to our doggone lawmakers that they need to support it and get behind what we're doing and let this be the model of what is right, rather than focusing on trying to fix something that's wrong in Memphis or Knoxville or Metro Nashville. If you want to make it right, do what they're doing in Rutherford County.
One thing that encouraged me, actually, that she said, because Carl D. Perkins and our CT people know, Mr. Estes is really the federal monies that come down to us to purchase this equipment, to replace outdated equipment, update your computers and that sort of thing. And she heard that numerous times during the day. But originally, if you remember when they were talking about the first cuts in the Trump administration, Carl Perkins was one of those they talked about removing nationally. And I don't know whether you picked up on it, I did, but she actually said towards the end of it, what impediments are there to the Carl Perkins money? So you switch from a time when they were thinking about maybe not doing it to, what are we doing to get in the way of it? And so, subtle, but it's still a thought process going on.
Yes.
Chairman, I would like to make.
Yes, sir. Please.
Oakland is to be commended. That school was spotless.
Absolutely.
It looked great. Rich Carter, your team, that administration staff at Oakland did an awesome job preparing for that meeting. And it's just not for that meeting. Anytime you walk in that school, it looks good. It looked just as good that day as it did 30 years ago when I attended there. So, to be a 50-year-old school almost is nice.
Number 16 is general discussion by board members. I thought we would say a word or two of thanks to the city for the meeting that we had down there, and I will tell you all that I really appreciate us being 100% in attendance that night, and the questions that you all asked, and everything. I thought we did a good job. I kind of agree I do agree with Ms. Moore. I think there was some things to be gained there on policy and in the future and et cetera. But also there's a thing about meeting somebody and knowing somebody, and when you talk about a person, everybody knows who you're talking about and who you're talking to, you know, when you meet a legislator or they meet you. And but anyway, I thought the evening went very well, from the food right on through adjournment. I thought it was pretty good, and I appreciate the city, and we'll have to top them next year, you know. I'm sure of that. We can do that. Ms. Michaels will take care of that.
I'd like to commend Ms. Moore for the meeting
Absolutely.
last evening. To get the commissioner here was quite the event, and for the commissioner to see not only school board members from here, but also the the city school board and administrators and teachers and our legislative delegation. And I think there's an accountability factor that came into play last night, that the commissioner is answering questions from Representative Terry and Senator Ketron, and no one other representatives are there. So I thought kudos for arranging that, and it went so well. So thank you.
Appreciate that, thank you.
I thought that meeting did have, well, it's certainly open for a lot of interpretation. I would agree with that, and she is not here, Dr. McQueen is not here to, I don't know why we were in such a rush last night. We burned up 46 minutes of 90 minutes in a presentation that, frankly, I think we all knew. But at any rate, we did. But I am really, I don't know how y'all feel. We have discussed it at all. But I'm just mystified with the testing. I just don't understand it. Maybe I'm not thinking deep enough. But if we don't get the test back in time to evaluate our curriculum and evaluate our teachers and fill in where a student is weak because we don't know it until the summer, and if we don't get them back in time to schedule, the summer's already here, they're already in their classes for the following fall, and if we don't know where we might be, our curriculum might be weak and we can't, it's too late to change it even in hiring teachers, then why do we even bother to test if we can't use it? And frankly, she's not here to answer that, but somebody did. Maybe it was Mr. Jared Barrett. They may have asked that. Maybe it was more. I don't remember. But she said they tried to move it back earlier in the year, and that didn't work. It couldn't happen where we could get it back. We get the data back in time to apply it to any of those things that we're supposed to be working on. I'm sorry, do y'all have any comment there on any of that? I mean, am I misguided?
Chairman, I'll share one thought with you. For a long time, I've been impressed, and I'm going to oversimplify this that Mr. Zago put in place at Stewart's Creek Elementary. But the day after standardized testing, the culture in his building as a principal was that those students moved to the next grade. And it gave the teachers the opportunity to see a third grader as a rising fourth grader for those final 6 weeks of school, the final 5 weeks of school. And in that place where there's not as much pressure because the standardized test is now over with, the teacher has the opportunity to really understand and get to know that student. And the benefit is in August, they hit the ground running and they are ready to learn on day one because they've gotten the individual classroom culture and the rules of the classroom and those things out of the way. They spend a little bit of time with that teacher and maybe even take a couple of assignments home for the summer. But I think that is a characteristic of Rutherford County Schools where we say it's great that the state of Tennessee or the federal government or anybody else has an expectation for our students, but we have a higher expectation. And it may be necessary for Rutherford County Schools to say we're going to solve this problem on our own and use something like Mr. Zago had in place there in that school, a culture that says we're going to be ready for the next school year, even if we have to solve the problem ourselves. I thought that program was excellent when he was there as a principal. I think it lingers on beyond him, and I raise it to public attention because I just thought it was so absolutely innovative and effective.
Comments from anyone on last night or anything else? You should have sat where I sat. And she said we spend 1% of our time testing, and I could look over her shoulder and see 3 high school principals laugh out loud. She didn't see that course, and those 2018 school year was still up here on the wall, which filled up 2 entire columns of hours and hours of tests, and it was still there.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to say. I really did.
You know, I find it interesting that it seems like in the question that you asked, Mr. Chairman, you know, it's such a simple and straightforward question, and when we look at the presentations that they keep bringing to the table, and what I consider, quite honestly, doublespeak, you know, it's like there's layer upon layer upon layer of complicating things. And it does make me wonder sometimes why, you know, why the complication and why all the I guess I would call it minutia, when you really just need to kind of cut straight to the chase, like you did with your question, and justify it, and all those numbers and all those slides and all the statistics, and we're going here and we're going there, and this is where we came from, is not explaining anything. That would be my humble opinion.
Oh, I've got to say, I think about 2/3 of the way through the meeting, I think I figured it out, and I may be wrong. Maybe I'm being a real simpleton here, which you could certainly accuse me of. But it appears to me that what Dr. McQueen is doing, and I wish her the best, particularly with who she replaced and what she's maybe trying to do. But I think what she is actually doing, and I'm not sure she knows it. She's running a testing organization. That's what she's doing. She's testing. And, well, actually, we're testing. And she's running it from Nashville, and we must follow the rules and all that kind of stuff. We've got to do it. And then when the testing is over, she's done. It's too late for us to use them in any really meaningful way for that next year. She doesn't worry about that. She's going to start again, which is coming up here. Well, it's already started. And we'll go through it again. I sure would like to get the test scores back to where we could. And I wanted to tell her last night so bad. I was just trying so nice to be polite. I was just trying so hard. And a director sitting right here, and I know he didn't, I know, you know. But I wanted to tell her something that we have talked about in here before, and that is that I am almost positive that parents and students have lost all faith in this testing system whatsoever. And we talked about that here, that the students didn't care because they found out that the tests weren't going to count. There'd be no grades coming back until, you know, whenever. But I didn't say it. Maybe I should have said it. I don't know.
I just had a quick thought. I'll make one more mention. I know we need to wrap up, but I have a recommendation that just kind of went through my head that I'm going to make to Mr. Blair and Mr. Duke for something they might suggest on this task force that they're going to be serving on. You know, I see a lot of this being, I guess, what the analogy to use would be what people used to talk about, the folks at corporate in their ivory towers, not understanding what the people in the plants or the people on the construction site or whatever the business might be were truly going through and experiencing. So maybe we ought to set up some kind of shadowing program where, you know, our commissioner and folks on her staff and people can actually come out and spend a day or two with one of the principals as they're going through the testing, or better yet, the graduation coaches and the principals are trying to schedule these tests in such a limited window, and spend time with the wonderful teachers like the Monica Whites at Holloway High School, to actually let them sit down and try to take that algebra test with all the challenges in that platform. Spend some time maybe at some of our PTO meetings when parents are talking about it. Just a thought.
No, when we had the convention down at Opryland, Collier Smith on the city school board spent about 20 minutes talking to me about the testing that had gone on, I don't know, about 2 weeks before that, and she volunteered. I think she was a parent also and volunteer, and went in and helped with the testing and distribution of the books and so forth. And it was an absolute horror story. It was just awful of how things just, what they had to do to get that done, you know. But she did say last night, Mr. Blair, Trey Duke is not here, she did say that, she used this word, that you all would have a chance to have input into reductions. I took that to mean to suggest that they eliminate some of these tests. So I'll just suggest that you absolutely jump on that and see if you can't reduce some of it. I went to tell Senator Ketron last night. He had a moratorium. He was going to introduce this bill, moratorium. He didn't think, he hadn't thought far enough ahead. He needs to have a bill that says, let's cut it in half. See how much buzz, I'm using his word, that causes as the State Department. Because what they do, in large part, is test. And his bill would make it possible that they wouldn't have to test quite as much. But
Well,
we'll see.
I concur kind of with what you're saying, that, you know, what we have here that you do and we do is a business. I mean, really, you've got dollars and you've got issues and things that you need to solve. So as a state, as a school district, you step back and you take a look, because it's very expensive to test. Do we need to spend some of those dollars on the instruction side? Are we getting our shifting maybe in the, not the best place there to make the difference? You're gonna have to do assessment to me, is there something between the two or something? And that's the kind of things, from a business standpoint, you start at where do you apply your dollars for the most bang for the boys and girls of the state of Tennessee? That's the question that has to be asked.
I'm going to step up then, if we're in that type of discussion, and Mr. Blair is going to carry some of our thoughts into that room, and we indeed have the opportunity to have input. I felt like the commissioner made it clear that one of their comments was that the number of questions on the test is at the minimum for the test to be effective. And so what we are looking at is the elimination of tests, not reducing the number of questions. And so, you know, I think that is a clear indication as to where a recommendation should be. If that is the case, then one of the areas that is already debated, and the commissioner indicated, we suggest, what do you think about eliminating social studies tests? And all the science teachers say, that's a great idea. But all the social studies teachers say, don't take away my scores, because I want to be evaluated on my work, not on somebody else's work. Likewise, if you reverse the roles, you get the reverse response. I suggested in one of my questions, and boy, we had a lot of questions that came in a lot of different ways, and we didn't get to get all of them out there. But one of my questions suggested, would it be appropriate, could it be received favorably from our teachers to have a 2 or 3 year running average of their performance, to where you could indeed drop a test or alternate this year social studies, next year science, this year social studies, next year science, and eliminate some of the testing? They get a 3 year on TVAS. Do they also get a 3 year on achievement?
Theirs is basically, their fixed score comes in TVAS, so.
Okay, all right. But that should allow then, you know, for us to be able to drop a year of testing and then the teachers still be evaluated on their performance by normalizing that direction. So I think that's an important thing to do. The other thing that I think Mr. Odom has pointed out to me is that ESSA requires us to execute math and English language tests, but it doesn't necessarily require us to report what the achievement was, just that we did the test. And we have the ability
I think
to...
we have to set goals and report that. We don't have to do it, you have to report science, but it's not an accountability factor.
Okay, science is the one that's not an accountability.
States were required to set goals.
Right.
Supposedly rigorous goals.
Okay.
As targets.
All right.
English language arts and mathematics.
Okay. Well, we could set those goals however we'd like because we're in charge of writing our own ESSA now. And in the year of implementation, I would suggest we should eliminate, on the 6-year cycle for the standards, eliminate the testing on the year of implementation. Because Mr. Odom has pointed out to this board over and over the J-curve. Every time we get new standards and we get updated testing, we see test scores drop and then we recover and we come back up. Eliminate the J-curve, eliminate that year of implementation of testing, and again, the results are more normalized and the testing burden is lessened. We have the ability to do that, so I offer those two things to Mr. Blair, and I'm sure Mr. Duke will get word.
I do know this, every minute that you spend, I don't care really what you're doing, a pep rally or walking back and forth down the hallway or whatever you're doing, every minute you spend testing, you don't spend instructing. I know that. And instruction time is by far and away the most valuable thing in a school. That's why we want them there and why we try to hire the best people. That's exactly right. Any other comments from any board member? If not, we will see you Thursday night at 5 o'clock. Don't forget our get-together on Monday that Mr. Blair is paying for well, maybe he's not. I'm not sure. He hasn't really told me, but do what?
I may be absent if that's
He
the
may-
case.
Anyway, don't forget that. That's 6 o'clock on Monday night. If there's nothing else, and boy, I appreciate the input. Thank you so very, very much. We are adjourned.